Obviously, since Ozempic went on the market, public figures have started losing a lot of weight, and there's been sort of a resurgence of the very thin beauty standard. But a good chunk of the population concerned about this beauty standard has been acting in ways that, in my opinion, only make things worse for women's body image. They call very thin women disgusting, they gloat about how they're going to get osteoporosis, they leave hate comments on their page, they zoom in on photos of their bones, they straight up contact their place of work to get them fired. As someone who used to treat people with eating disorders, who used to have a decades-long ED myself, it makes me very sad to watch the way that people are treating these women. And please don't get me wrong, I understand the concern for these women and the desire to discuss it with other people. I actually happen to think that a lot of these women probably do have EDs, but the way that people are going about expressing their concern is extremely damaging. So there are generally two arguments that people give when they're justifying the type of behavior that they've been engaging in. One is that we need to express concern because otherwise these women are going to perish. And the second is that it's not about these specific women, but rather protecting other girls and women who look up to them, who might fall into EDs as a result of the social contagion that is so central to this issue. I'm going to address each of these separately, starting with number one, that we need to express concern for these women. Listen, this is not the right approach if you care about the woman that you're genuinely so concerned about. Leaving gifs of skeletons or SpongeBob's arms to make fun of how their body looks, leaving comments like "me when I'm delusional," "off balance because you're standing on twigs," "calves wider than the thighs," making videos with thumbnails like this, where you're including somebody's very triggering ribcage in the thumbnail because you know it's going to get clicks, and yet it's obviously not going to be good for people with actual EDs to be seeing that sort of triggering content. And also framing it as like something you're not allowed to talk about. You're literally making an entire video on it. How are you not allowed to talk about it if you're literally talking about it? And would you ever make a video of someone who struggles with binge eating disorder, whose weight is dangerous on the other side of the spectrum, with the words "this isn't healthy" across the thumbnail? I'm guessing not, because it would be wrong to do that as well. And I just have to say, I am not an Ariana fan, okay? Like, while I think she's an incredibly talented vocalist, I actually don't like her very much. Her whole little like girlish innocence thing just feels a little bit contrived to me, especially given her actual pattern of behavior. So please don't mistake me defending her with me being a fan. Actually, when she first started losing weight, I think around like 2020, I was still very much struggling with my own body image. And I remember the exact photo I saw where I was like, oh, she's lost a lot of weight, where she was like standing to the side and her legs looked really skinny. And I remember feeling horrible about it. And I can make this video today and defend her precisely because I'm not in that mental space anymore. Precisely because nobody who's happy with their own body image spends this much mental space thinking about somebody else's body. And this isn't even about one specific individual either. This is something I've been noticing across many different women, this like barrage of shaming women who are clearly struggling with their weight. If you are truly concerned for these women, you have to understand that the mind finds it very difficult to differentiate between interactions online and interactions in real life. So how do you think it would feel for someone to go through the following? Everyone in her life suddenly starts commenting on her body, taking photos of specific body parts and zooming in and discussing them with other people. Some people are actively calling her disgusting or ugly or unattractive, saying her curves are gone, saying she's a bad person for what she's going through, calling up her boss to get her fired from her job. Not only will this likely not help, a person could very much still perish despite everyone getting all up in their business like that, but it could likely push them deeper into their problem. Because the ED tells people, I'm your only friend. I'm the only thing you got, the only thing that makes you feel better. So the more stress they have in their life, the more people that are against them, the more they lean on that as a crutch. Plus, EDs are very often about control. So if everyone in your life is suddenly trying to control you, you might get even worse. And of course, people who have these struggles get off on others telling them how sick they are or how concerned they are for them. You know, when I was thinking about making this video, it occurred occurred to me that I actually had some similar experiences in real life when I was dealing with my body image struggles. I know what it's like for people who supposedly care about you to gang up on you and to try to get you in trouble with an authority figure because of what you're going through, and then retreat from actually being your friend and bond over how awful it is to be around you. I also know what it's like for people to insult you in very misogynistic ways, to say things like, wow, all your curves are gone, as a way of like helping you heal. These things are not helpful. What actually helps a person in this situation? What should a therapist or loved one do? Loved ones should encourage her to get professional help. They should ask her how she's doing. They should note specific behaviors that they're concerned about rather than aspects of her body that they're concerned about. They should open up the floor for her to share whatever she wants, but not pressure her if she doesn't feel ready. Check in regularly. Be there for her. Validate or support or challenge her in whatever way honors her personal agency and whatever way feels appropriate for the situation. Meanwhile, the professionals that she's working with should use evidence-based treatment to help her tolerate distress without acting on it, regulate her emotions in healthier ways, process past traumas, foster self-love and acceptance, get in touch with her core values, resist body-related compulsions, diffuse from body-related obsessions. They should challenge when necessary but also be gentle and validate her emotional experience and treat her with kindness and respect and human dignity and still respect her agency as a human being. Believe it or not, a stranger is not the person that's going to save her. Respectfully, a lot of these people need to get over their savior complex. And people with EDs already have an unconscious indifference to their own mortality. Do you really think that further beating down their self-esteem is going to help? No, it's just going to make things far worse. Forgive me, but I do not buy the whole "I'm just concerned about her" facade. I'm sure some people are actually concerned, and honestly, maybe they should be. But I always think it's so interesting when people's concern comes out in such misogynistic ways. These are often the same women who would immediately shut down commenting on a woman's weight in the other direction. Why is that, I wonder? Does it have anything to do with the fact that thinness is still valued as the beauty standard in many cultures? So seeing a very thin woman triggers their own insecurity in the way that seeing a very large woman doesn't quite. Like I said, no one who's happy with their own body image spends so much time thinking about somebody else's body, and certainly not talking about someone else's body. When someone's body makes you feel bad about your own, that is a sign to turn your attention towards yourself. I made a whole Patreon essay about this. It's not a sign to start talking about how this person is unhealthy. It's a sign to say, oh, my own body image must not be very good if this person is triggering me. Worry less about other people, especially people you don't actually know, and more about yourself. But what about the second argument, that this is not about these particular public figures and protecting them, but rather protecting the people who might be negatively influenced by them? That is also not the right approach if you're concerned about social contagion. Having an ED is not a moral failure. Yes, it's socially contagious, and it can be damaging to other vulnerable girls and women, or people in general. Like I'm talking about women in this video specifically because this topic is very heavily intermixed with misogyny, but obviously EDs can affect anyone of any gender. Women who are negatively influencing other people via social contagion today were once victims of that very same pyramid scheme, and likely also victims of other things as well, such as trauma history, OCD tendencies, the addictiveness of losing weight. At the end of the day, yes, we influence other people, but we are responsible for our own actions, and no one is responsible for the actions someone else takes as a result of seeing their body. And you also have to remember that people with EDs are on a spectrum in terms of insight, as is the case with most mental illnesses. Some people are in denial to themselves and are therefore also going to deny the problem to other people, are going to say, I'm healthier than I've ever been before, I have no issue, I do eat. Someone not having insight into their mental illness is also not a moral failure. It is a core feature of the disorder for many people. And unfortunately, that does mean that people with less insight are sometimes going to cause more harm, because they might do things like post what I eat in a days, or body check on camera, or post thinspo of themselves. Those with insight know that it's damaging and they don't do those things. But that doesn't mean people with low insight are bad people. It is a function of the disorder. What message do you think it sends to other impressionable women who might be struggling with their body image to watch you tear down a woman for publicly struggling with her eating. It's incredibly objectifying too. You're playing into the same misogyny that causes diet culture in the first place, because it gives the message that women's bodies are always up for discussion, must always benefit the collective, and if it's deemed that their bodies are wrong, that gives society a free pass to speak about their bodies as if they are objects, rather than to see the human being inhabiting said body. The fact of the matter is that sometimes people with mental illness are annoying or frustrating or dramatic, or they come off as vain, attention-seeking, competitive, unstable. The list goes on. I need some of you to stop acting like you're pro-mental health when really you just mean you support people with moderate depression or anxiety because maybe that's something you've had experience with. The way some of you treat people with eating disorders, with mania or psychosis, personality disorders, severe PTSD, addiction, your advocacy for mental health stops the second you find someone annoying, particularly a woman. You're not a mental health advocate. You're just a bully who pretends to care about people by framing themselves as virtuous. Thank you for watching.
Tell me what you want, what you need. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Tell me what you want, what you need. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Tell me what you want, what you need. Tell me, tell me.